Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Senior Writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
And writer Chris Evangelista.
Hello.
Okay, let's dive right into it. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are set to direct a new thing. Chris, tell us about it.
Yes, this new thing is about the COVID-19 pandemic, which immediately makes me anxious because I'm really not sure how many people want COVID-19 movies. But Phil Lord and Chris Miller are directing this film called The Premonition, which is based on a recently published book by Michael Lewis, who is the author of Moneyball and The Big Short. So he tends to write these nonfiction books that get turned into very popular movies. And this is all about the early days of COVID-19 and specifically about a group of people who started to try and sound the alarm very early on and weren't being taken seriously by certain members of a certain administration who will go unnamed for now. And yeah, that's basically it. And this is, from the sound of it, this is like a full-blown drama, which is going to be a bit of a change of a pace for Lord and Miller, who have primarily done comedic things up until now.
Yeah, I was going to say, this doesn't sound funny at all.
No.
But, Lord and Miller have made a career out of making things that I didn't think I want or didn't think that would be good.
Right.
And, under promising, over delivering.
Yeah, like if this were anyone else, I'd be a little anxious just because, like I said, I feel like Hollywood is overestimating how many movies we want about the pandemic because, like, currently I want 0, but I do trust Lord and Miller enough to maybe do something interesting here. So I will give it a chance, but I'm really not looking forward to the glut of pandemic movies I'm sure we're going to get in the next year or so.
Yeah, I'm really curious if people really want to relive the pandemic this soon after.
I mean, it's not even like over yet.
Yeah.
So it's like,
But I get things like, when 9/11 happened, making movies like United 93, there was an emotional attachment there. But I feel like we just want to get through this. And maybe in like 5-10 years, then it's like, oh, remember that time when we were stuck in the house for a year?
Yeah, like I don't think anyone wants to relive this anytime soon, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Ben, are you excited to relive the pandemic in movie form?
I'm not. This also sounds to me like one of those projects that, like, Lord and Miller get attached to a lot of stuff and some of it just never happens. So maybe it's one of those, but if it does happen, I'm sort of intrigued by the fact that it's such a swerve away from comedy and into drama. And it sort of reminds me, talking about The Big Short, it sort of reminds me a little bit of Adam McKay's career a little bit. So I don't know. I'm curious if this signals a full new direction for them, or if it's just an abnormality and they're going to go back to making comedic stuff primarily, or what?
Well, at this point, I'll watch anything that they're involved in. Even as producers, I'm immediately interested. But okay, let's move on to our next story, and this involves the Knives Out sequels that are in development over at Netflix. Netflix spent some kind of record amount of money, like $450 million. Is that correct, Ben?
I think it was 400 million, but maybe it was 450.
It was a lot of money. Whatever it was a lot of money. And so they're making these 2 Knives Out sequels, and casting has begun for the first of those. And I remember when the first Knives Out was, announced, it seemed like every other day we were getting a casting announcement because it became this huge ensemble cast of like great actors. And it seems like, history is repeating itself here. Tell us about it.
Yes. So 2 actors have already been cast in Knives Out 2 alongside returning lead actor Daniel Craig, who's going to be reprising his role as Benoit Blanc, the detective who's at the center of this murder mystery sequel written and directed by Rian Johnson. The first person who was cast ended up being cast yesterday, and that was Dave Bautista from Guardians of the Galaxy and the upcoming Army of the Dead. We don't know anything about which character he's going to be playing, and I suspect that's going to be a trend that continues all the way through until they're like very close to releasing a trailer for this, because that's basically the formula that happened the first time around for the first Knives Out. It was just, hey, this person's going to be in this movie. We know nothing about the details of the plot or what kind of character they're going to play. And the second person who was cast today is Edward Norton. So that's an exciting prospect there. Dave Bautista worked with Daniel Craig on Spectre, the not very good James Bond movie that came out in 2015. He played this hulking character named Hinks, who was sort of in the mold of Jaws and big, brutish sort of goon characters like that in the Bond franchise. And as far as I know, Edward Norton and Daniel Craig had not worked together on anything before. But just the idea of Bautista and Norton being thrown into this sandbox that Rian Johnson is carving out is exciting. The only thing we really know about Knives Out 2 is that it is production is going to begin this summer in Greece. So it seems like they're going to lean into that sort of international locale vibe instead of doing another stateside mystery like the first one.
Is it too early to assume that it's going to be an ensemble movie? I think most whodunits are, because you need all the suspects, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be almost exactly the same kind of thing as the first movie in terms of just that full-blown Agatha Christie influence, where that's part of the fun of these movies, is getting some of the best actors who are working today and throwing them all together like this in a big ensemble. And I think the reason that first movie, the casting announcements came so furiously and so quickly that first time around, was because the first film came together very, very quickly, because Rian Johnson had a very small window to make the movie before Daniel Craig had to go off and make the new Bond film. Little did everybody know that movie is still not out and we still haven't seen it. But we know that he has another window coming up here for Knives Out 2 this summer. So, if production is beginning this summer, it's May 11th right now. So, we're very close to this summer. I don't know exactly when production is going to.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to start in June, which is even closer than summer. So.
Okay, great. Yeah. So that means that we're probably in for another couple of weeks of like, hey, this great person is going to be in this movie, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah. It didn't occur to me until I saw these headlines for the articles you wrote up here, Ben. But Knives Out 2. Do you think they're actually going to call it Knives Out 2? Because Knives Out was titled Knives Out for a variety of reasons. I think mostly because of that set design piece with all the knives, which was very prominent in the marketing. Do you think they're going to keep that?
I don't know. I am, I think if anything, it'll be like Knives Out : Summer in Greece, or whatever the hell they call it. It's a terrible title. Please, Netflix, don't use that under any circumstances. But I wouldn't be. The reason Netflix spent so much money on this was because the first film overperformed a lot at the box office, and they want to be in the franchise business. They want to be in the Rian Johnson business. So the idea of them keeping that just for name recognition makes sense to me. But Knives Out 2 just feels a little weak. So I feel like they'll keep the Knives Out as the primary title, and then maybe toss a subtitle in there.
Yeah, because I feel like even if you subtitled it with the name of Daniel's character, I don't think people would connect the dots as much as they would Knives Out. So I think you need it in there somewhere.
Right, yeah.
At the same time, Death on the Nile is the follow-up to Murder on the Orient Express, and that doesn't have, it's not Murder on the Orient Express 2, Death on the Nile.
I guess that's true. Well, yeah, that would be a very interesting movie. A train crashes into the Nile, and then maybe a body is found on there.
Okay, let's move on to our next story. And this comes from our own writer, Jack Giroux. And it's Timur is talking about making another Night Watch sequel, but could be using a different format. Chris, tell us about this.
Yes, Timur. Oh man, someone want to help me say this?
It's Bekmambetov.
Thank you, Ben. I'm sorry, I'm so unprepared. But he directed these films called Night Watch and Day Watch, and there was supposed to be a third film too, but the third film never got around to being made. And these were these Russian language horror sci-fi action movies set in this world where there's these supernatural beings. They're sort of like vampires, but they're not officially vampires. And there are the good side, the light side, and the dark side, like as many movies do. And he's out there promoting Profile right now, which is another movie in the Screenlife genre. And Screenlife is this I guess you can call it a subgenre that he's sort of pioneered, where all the action takes place on a computer screen. Think of the Unfriended movies, and also Searching. It's, these movies where everything is on a laptop screen or a phone screen. All the action is on a screen. And Profile is a movie like that too. And during this interview, he was asked if he ever wanted to if he would make another movie in this Daywatch series, which would be called Twilight Watch. That was supposed to be the third movie. And he said yes, and he wants to do it as a Screenlife movie. He said, "It must be Screenlife. It will be Screenlife. Where do the dark ones and the light ones live today? In digital space. I think it will happen in Screenlife." So, I don't know if he's really going to make this or not, but it sounds like if he does make a third film, it's going to be one of these Screenlife movies, which will be a big change of pace compared to the first two, which were not Screenlife movies.
What happened to Timur? Like, I feel like he used to be like one of those like crazy geniuses. Like, and I'm not saying like all his stuff was great, but he always had some great ideas in there. And I liked both of these movies, but I don't know. And I also like the Screenlife format. I think as a format, like there's so much you could do within that format. Is that the future of movies? No, it's like, I think, just kind of like a subgenre, kind of like time loop movies. You could do time loop romantic comedy, time loop, like that kind of thing. But I don't know if Chris, do you have a love for those movies, the Night Watch and Day Watch?
I never saw the Day Watch one. I saw Night Watch. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't like I wasn't like as big on it as a lot of people were when it came out. I remember it was like a big deal, but I thought it was just okay.
Yeah, I saw it after the fact as well. Ben, did you see either of those?
I saw both of them probably when I was in college, like really late at night. And I just remember them being borderline incomprehensible to me. Like I remember them being big on style and like some big action set pieces here and there. But like I could not tell you a single thing about what happened in either of them.
Yeah, I think I appreciated them on the style level. They weren't really like the best plot driven stories, but what do you guys think of telling a third story in this universe as in the Screenlife format?
I mean, it's weird, isn't it, Chris? Like the idea of taking a movie that is or a franchise that is so action heavy and then translating that to Screenlife. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. I also don't think people really remember like Day Watch as much as he seems to think they do. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone's like, "Oh fuck yeah, there's a new Day Watch movie and it's on a computer."
I will say, I think it does have a cult following. It's kind of like one of those like I don't want to say Boondock Saints, but like one of those like level of cult following.
Right, but the cult following is based on what it was. I don't think anyone's like, "Yeah, put this on a computer."
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think this is a bad idea. And his quote there, he seems so confident. He's like, "Of course, this is the only way to do it."
I mean, he's all in on the Screenlife thing. He wants to hit that. That's all he wants to do now. So I guess it makes sense for him. But yeah,
I mean, I'm okay with the Screenlife thing. It just why put it with this franchise?
Yeah, like are the vampires gonna like text each other? Like, I don't even know what that movie is. Like. I seem to remember the thing that everyone loved about those movies is like the fights and stuff, and you can't really do that as a Screenlife movie, or maybe you can. I don't know.
It'll be recording from a computer in the corner, and you'll see a fight play out in like one wide shot.
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to another filmmaker, Zack Snyder. He finally got his Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. The Snyder Cut was released on HBO Max, and he's doing a lot of press for his new film. What is it, Army of the Dead? Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Yeah, and people are asking about it, and so he's talking, and it sounds like he's not so happy with Warner Brothers, or maybe Maybe it's the other way or the other way around. Warner Brothers is not so happy with him. Ben, tell us about it.
Yeah, so somebody asked Zack Snyder if fans should maintain hope for the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse movement, which is this fan campaign that is aimed at trying to convince Warner Brothers to hire Zack Snyder to continue making more Justice League movies. Previously, the CEO of Warner Media has strongly implied that the company is not interested in doing that. They have many other projects that are sort of percolating in the world of DC. So basically, in their eyes, the Snyderverse is dead.
And also, all the like third-party analytics seem to show that HBO Go or HBO Max didn't get like a huge spike in subscribers because of this. So
right, yeah. So there are several factors at play here, but I guess in response to this question, Zack Snyder said, I would think about it this way. Yes, Warner Brothers has been aggressively anti-Snyder, if you will. He goes on to basically say, I would also say that they certainly weren't interested in my take on Justice League. They certainly made decisions about that. I love the characters. I love the world. I think it's an amazing place to make a movie. It's glorious IP. So there's that. I don't know what could be done as you move forward other than I think the fan movement is so strong. The fan community, the intention is so pure. I have huge respect for it. I would hope that cooler heads would prevail with Warner Brothers, and that they would want that they would see that there's this massive fandom that wants more of that, but who knows what they'll do. Well, I think Ann Sarnoff, the CEO of Warner Media, knows what they're going to do, and the answer is probably not give you the keys to make any more Justice League movies, Mr. Snyder. But I mean, I think the headline going around is like, Snyder says Warner Brothers is aggressively anti-Snyder, and like only in this specific instance, right? Because that company is, like, they gave him $70 million or something to make the Snyder cut. So they can't be.
Well, they also did kind of
anti-Snyder.
They did kind of remove him from his movie and completely change it on him without his creative feedback. So,
right, but like if they hated him, if they thought that everything that he stood for was vile and atrocious, they wouldn't have given him this money to complete his vision. So I feel like they were appeasing fans, they were appeasing him. They it was an opportunistic decision on their part. They thought that it could help boost the profile of HBO Max. It was all these factors that went into the green lighting of the Snyder cut. But now that the dust has settled a little bit, and some of those factors are not exactly in the same formation as they were before. I just don't think this is going to happen again, especially since they've basically come out and said as much already. So this kind of seems to me like Zack Snyder is just like, trying to string the most ardent members of his super hardcore fan base along and just leaving it with like a who knows, maybe one day kind of thing, so that the movement will never die. There will always be people out there who are like, maybe he's always said maybe, like that kind of thing, just to keep people on the, strung along a little bit. But it seems like right now that this is not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll say this, that, I generally like Zack Snyder's films. I'm not a Zack Snyder hater. I enjoyed Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, not as much. I like the Snyder cut of Justice League, but I did think it was way too long. All that said, I don't know what he was doing. Like they gave him all this money and they gave him the creative freedom and they gave him this money to do reshoots. And instead of spending that money in reshoots to make Zack Snyder's Justice League a better movie, he spent the money to set up this nightmare verse thing that could be, in its own corner of the DC universe and could function on its, kind of like the Joker movies, could function on its own. And he seemed to like be betting on the fact that, like, since he created the sandbox in the corner, that, Warner Brothers, if there was enough money to be made, would let him make some movies in that nightmare verse. I don't know. It just seemed like such a strange move. Like, why not spend that money to make the movie the best movie it could possibly be?
I think you just explained exactly why. He was calling his shot. He thought that this was the best way to not only make this movie, give this movie a bunch of talking points and have people wonder what the hell Jared Leto's Joker was doing in the movie, and all the drive the conversation that happened around the release of the Snyder Cut. But also he was very clearly and obviously laying path for the future of his career should Warner Brothers want to go in that direction. He's clearly like interested in pursuing that. If the studio and him were on the same page, he would absolutely be making more movies, for the next 5 or 10 years or whatever in that universe. So he was like shooting his shot. And in one respect, I kind of, like I admire the balls that it takes to just do that instead of, tightening things up and doing, creating like this this grand finale of this trilogy. Instead, he like tacked on this thing that it's like, well, maybe there could be more. And it also, that goes right back into feeding that fan community and always, leaving people with the conversation of, well, what could happen in this nightmare verse? It's the kind of geek conversations that have been happening for decades in various properties. So yeah, I think Zack Snyder knows exactly what he's doing. I don't think it's like, sometimes you point to left field and instead of hitting a home run, you just, I don't know, foul out or something. If you want to,
that was me as
the metaphor.
I always did that. And never was it a home run, but I don't know. I just feel like at this point, with what Zack Snyder was able to accomplish with this whole Snyder Cut movement, like it or hate it, Zack Snyder is a brand. He's as much of a brand as, Chris Nolan is a brand or Steven Spielberg is a brand. I'm not saying that he, has as much weight as those other brands, but like there aren't many filmmakers that are brands to the general public. Mm-hmm. Not the the film Twitter, film first, like us nerds here. But like I really think, like, why does he keep on harping on this? I don't even think he needs DC anymore. He can go out and just make his Army of the Dead or whatever he wants to make, and he's going to get money for it because he has that loyal audience.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like he really he's fallen in love with his vision for these characters. And I know a lot of people sort of bristle at his interpretation of what these characters should be, but it's clearly something that he spent a lot of time thinking about. We wrote stories about, his plans for these future Justice League movies, should they happen, which again, they probably won't. And it's some big swing, like galaxy brain stuff. So, I mean, he obviously has thought all this stuff through and he really loves these characters. So, I think that's the reason he's just like doing whatever he can, to try to give himself the chance to do this. Although I would say, saying in a statement like this that Warner Brothers has been aggressively anti-Snyder basically to me reads like negging the studio that would need to hire him to continue making these movies, and that doesn't strike me as the best plan. So I'm not exactly sure what he's doing here. Maybe he knows that there's no chance and he's just burning bridges at this point. I don't know.
It almost feels like he's encouraging his loyal followers to kind of go at Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can kind of read that between the lines a little bit. He stops short of actually like telling anybody to do that or even like heavily implying that. But it's
I feel like if I'm in that fan base and he says that, I'm like, okay, we're gonna start an email campaign and we're gonna email Warner Brothers and we're gonna buy a billboard and we're gonna put it outside Warner Brothers studio. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just feel like it is. There's a way of being like maybe someday and appeasing people and keeping fans at bay and like keeping them, satisfied for now. And then there's another, like, I feel that statement was a little over the line.
Yeah, it could be. It's very close to the line, I would say. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Peter, I think you said in our Slack, like, you don't think this is going to be the last that we hear of this. So I suspect we'll be talking about it more in the months to come, probably.
Sure. Do you think if this doesn't ever happen, if he doesn't get to do his Nightmare Verse as a movie, do you think like maybe in comics they could like do the Zack Snyder, like the continuation? Because I'm sure that would be enough for DC Comics, which is owned by Warner Brothers. Like they would make enough money off, people buying those books.
Chris, what do you think? Do you think Snyder would sort of relinquish the chance to complete that cinematic vision or like basically pass that off to the comics department to handle?
I don't think he would do that, but also I would like to never talk about this again.
Okay, let's move on to our final story today, and this is a fun one. They're rebooting Legends of the Hidden Temple for adults. Chris, tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean that's really the long and short of it. Legends of the Hidden Temple, if you don't remember, was a game show on Nickelodeon in the 1990s where the first half of the show was like a traditional, like quiz show, Jeopardy show, where teams were answering questions, and then what they were doing was competing to run through the temple, which is basically an obstacle course that sort of resembles an Indiana Jones set. And it was a lot of fun. I used to love this when I was a kid, and now it's coming back on the CW. And the twist here is, whereas the original was, for kids and it had kids as contestants, this version is going to have adults as contestants. But other than that, it sounds like it's going to be pretty much the same show, which is interesting and fun and clearly meant to appeal to nostalgia and people who grew up with this and want to see it again, but with adults. So it sounds fun. I'm very curious to check this out.
I love this. When I was a kid watching Nickelodeon, there was so many great game shows on Nickelodeon. Obviously, there was Double Dare. There was Slime Time Live. There was this one, Legends of the Hidden Temple. There was Nickelodeon Guts. There was Nick Arcade. I always wanted to be in Nick Arcade because you'd in the end of that one, they would put you in the video game. And I'm assuming it was just like a green screen set where you're like moving your arms and stuff, but it looked so cool on TV. I always wanted to be in these things, and I'm kind of happy. I don't know if I'm correcting this, but I think Floor is Lava kind of kickstarted this movement of making these kind of game shows, these physical game shows for adults. I mean, I guess there was like some stuff in Japan that was I forget that show on Wipeout, I think it is.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that predates it, but yeah. Ben, did you ever watch any of these shows?
Yeah, I watched Legends of the Hidden Temple all the time as a kid, and I really enjoyed it. I also watched MXC, which was the most extreme elimination challenge that was on Spike TV, and I imagine that does not hold up very well at all. So I feel bad that I watched that now, looking back on it.
Wait, what was that one?
It was one of those Japanese shows that was overdubbed by probably a couple of white guys who thought they were making very, very funny jokes, but it was just a lot of ridiculous physical humor because the obstacle courses and tasks that they would have to complete were so far outside of what we were seeing on American TV at the time that it was just entertainment on that level. But they had this level of commentary and jokes and stuff in there that I cannot imagine holds up very well at all. But yeah, I enjoyed Legends of the Hidden Temple, and this sounds like a fun thing. I can't wait for Chris to apply to be part of the
yes,
the silver snakes or whatever the team name was.
Yeah.
What was that talking statue? Olmec?
Yeah.
Olmec.
Oh yeah. The Shrine of the Silver Monkey. That was
my favorite part. The Shrine of the Silver Monkey. Just because the way he said it, he would be like the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Chris, maybe you can do the voiceover work for the new show.
Hit me up, the CW. I'll do the new Olmec voice. Whatever.
It is strange that it's going to the CW though. I guess it doesn't make sense for Nick, but maybe why not Paramount Plus?
It seems like the best fit for it, but
yeah. Okay. That does it for today. You can find more of all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast on Apple, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And please rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you tomorrow.